So let's look at what I'm going to revise and edit today. I'm going to revise and edit the introduction paragraph that you see here. It is the one that I used as an introduction in one of my previous videos. So first things first is I'm going to show you where the title would go on your, actually we're going to start with the name and date of your paper. My paper right now is on the very top line, which means I can't write above this. So I'm going to need to space down and get my cursor, which is this little black blinking line up at the top line without words next to it. I'm going to left align my paper, which is right here. So when I click on it, you'll notice my cursor goes over here. I'm going to type my first and last name. I'm going to type my homeroom teacher's first, Mrs. Nuttall, Mrs. Hartzog, Miss Reynolds, or Mr. McAfee. And then I'm also going to put the date. Oh, I'm sorry, it's not May 30th, it's May 1st, 2012. Okay, so I'm going to do all of those things. Now then, I want you to notice this. Right here, I get this little green fuzzy line under my 2012. So that is an immediate sign to me that something is wrong. I know by looking at that what's wrong with my paper, but I'm going to pretend like I don't. One quick trick that you may or may not know is that if you'll put your cursor, your mouse over the green line and right click it, it's going to give you right here a suggestion. The computer is going to say, this is what I think you meant to do because you have a mistake. And when I look at it, I can see that what I'm missing right here is my space. That is what's wrong, so I'm going to choose it and make my correction. I could have also looked at that, known that with that green line I have a mistake, realized that it was a space and just put my space. So however you want to do it. But your name, your homeroom teacher, and the date all need to be left aligned at the very top of your paper. I'm going to space down one space. I'm going to come up here where I have the alignment buttons, and I'm going to center align for the title of my paper. The title of my paper is going to be whatever person or event I have been studying. So mine will be Lyndon B. Johnson. I will just type his name, spelled correctly, correct capital, nothing cutesy, or I'm not adding anything. I'm not calling him by a nickname. Notice I did not just type LBJ. I typed out his name, and so that's what you're going to do there. Notice I have this huge space here. That does not look good. So I'm going to put my cursor here, and I'm going to backspace so that my paper looks nice and formatted, and I'm ready to go. So I've got my name, my teacher's name, and the date in the top right corner. I did that by clicking on this button. I've got my my title centered by using this button, and I've titled it the name of my person or my event. Now I'm down on the left align. I'm ready to revise and edit my paper. The first thing, if I look at my rubric, that I remember from right over here is that it says I have 4 paragraphs that are indented. So I can tell right now by looking at this paper it is not indented. So what I'm going to do is put my cursor there and hit Tab. That Tab button, which is on the left side of your keyboard, kind of towards the top, will indent for you. All 4 of your paragraphs must be indented. Once I've done that, I'm going to start checking my paper, and right off the bat, I see some red and green squiggly lines. I know that I need to check those, but I'm going to read my paper before I get there, because remember, there are mistakes that it's possible that spell check did not catch. So I'm going to read my paper. On Air Force One, with the chaos of the day's events, Lyndon B. Johnson placed his hand on the Roman Catholic missile on November 22nd, 1963, 2 hours and 8 minutes after President Kennedy was killed aboard Air Force One at Love Field Airport in Dallas, Texas. Okay, I can tell by reading that I have a run-on sentence. So I'm going to go through there and decide, where do I need commas or possibly a period? So on Air Force One, with the chaos of the day's events, I know that I need a break there, so I'm going to put my comma. I'm not going to put a period. It is not a complete sentence. It's leading into my sentence, so I need a comma. Lyndon B. Johnson placed his hands on the Roman Catholic missile on November 22nd, 1963, 2 hours and 8 minutes after President Kennedy was killed. okay, comma. Now I know that Lyndon B. Johnson is aboard the Air Force One at Love Field Airport in Dallas, Texas. I notice here I did Air Force One with the number 1. Here I did one lower with the word, and I did lowercase. I want to make sure that I'm consistent. I know Air Force One is a specific plane that our president travels on, so I'm going to give it a capital letter. I put in my commas, so I'm going to check it one more time. On Air Force One, with the chaos of the day's events, Lyndon B. Johnson placed his hand on the Roman Catholic missile on November 22, 1963, 2 hours and 8 minutes after President Kennedy was killed, aboard Air Force One at Love Field Airport in Dallas, Texas. I know that President Kennedy was killed, but I know that as a 5th grader, there is a better word that I can use. So this is where I'm looking for word choice. And I know that assassinated is a better word. So I'm going to change that word. So I think I'm ready to move on. Mr. Johnson. Now this is red, and I'm pretty sure that I have Johnson spelled correctly. So I'm going to do that trick where I right-click on it, and I look at it, and I notice it's spelled correctly. But the problem is I do not have that capital letter. And so spell check is going to check that for me if it's a common name. So I'm going to change Johnson to a capital J. Was the first president sworn in on Texas soil. Same thing, I've got that red line. I know what's wrong, so I'm just going to make my T capitalized. It takes care of it for me. Comma, without the Bible, and by a woman. LBJ, as he is commonly referred to, began making history within the first minutes of his presidency. Though his many years in politics, LBJ demonstrated the habits of mind as he worked in American politics. So I'm looking at this, and I'm not really sure if I'm going to right-click, and it just kind of tells me that it's a fragment, which means it's not a complete sentence. So I need to really look at this and figure out what's wrong. Well, I know that I meant through. Notice it doesn't have a red line because though is a word, even though I meant through. So through his many years in politics, LBJ demonstrated the habits of mind as he worked in American politics. That fixed my problem. But as I read this and I look at this, I think that I can make this sentence better. He didn't just work in American politics. I would say he shaped American politics. There are many things that we still look at from his policies, as well as the turbulent time in history that he took office. So I like the word shaped better. So I've made all my corrections. You'll notice there are no green or red squiggly lines under my things, under my words, my sentences. So spell check says I'm good. I'm going to have an adult check it, make sure I'm good, make sure everything is corrected. I'll refer back to my rubric. Do I have correct spelling? Did I invent my paragraphs? Capital letters, punctuation, my assigned font. It's going to come right up here. We want everyone to turn this in Times New Roman. So I'm going to scroll down. Here it is, not bold, just Times New Roman. And, oh, I'm sorry, you'll have to highlight your paper if you've already written it. I apologize. So you're going to highlight your paper. You're going to come down here. You're going to choose Times New Roman. You're going to choose size 12 font. So that assigned font and size is Times New Roman 12. Okay, so I've done that. I can check that off, and my name, my title's in the correct location, and my name and date is in the assigned location. I'm going to go ahead and change this rubric to say name, comma, date, comma, and homeroom teacher, and assigned location, so that we know whose teacher, what teacher stack your paper belongs in. So I can look at all of those things and see that I've done them. So I'm ready to turn in my paper. Or I'm done revising and editing. When you get to this point, you're going to want to save. Remember, you're going to save as. You're going to choose from here your jump drive. Notice I don't have my jump drive, so I'm going to choose something different. I'm going to put my title here. Oh, excuse me. And then remember, you always want to save it as compatible. So you're going to find Word 97 2003 or Word 2003 2007 so that it is compatible, and I'm going to save it. Then I'm done with that for tonight. Tomorrow night you will have a video on how to turn this paper in, and your final steps. And then when you are done with that, you can sit back and take a deep breath because you will be completely done with your research paper. So remember, have a parent check this over, double check it with the rubric, and hold on to it till you watch the final video. You guys have a wonderful night.